Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Cyber Aquarius, and this is my entry video for David's Aquariums contest. David's Aquariums is a really great channel. I know he has some freshwater videos, and he's more focused on the reef aspect of the hobby right now. He's setting up a 125-gallon reef aquarium, so I'm going to post the link to his channel in the description for this video. Be sure to go check his channel out and sub up to him. Alright, well, David has asked us in this contest to show him the type of equipment that we're using and to explain why we chose what we did. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is my 150-gallon extra high African cichlid aquarium. This is a fish-only system, so I chose a wet-dry filtration system, which I believe is the best type of filtration for a fish-only system, because in a wet-dry, the beneficial bacteria don't have to compete with the fish for dissolved oxygen in the water. So I'm going to go ahead and cover my filtration first, starting with the overflow box. This is a Reef Octopus OB300D, which is manufactured by CoralView, and it's rated at a flow rate of 8,000 liters per hour or 2,000 gallons per hour. CoralView makes some excellent products, protein skimmers, overflow boxes, lighting. They mainly focus on the reef hobby, but I checked out other overflow boxes, the eShops with the twin U-tubes, the CPR, continuous siphon overflow, and I believe that the Reef Octopus just blows them all out of the water. The build quality of this thing is second to none. It has a removable weir gate where I can access the pre-filter. There's a pre-filter sponge in the bottom of the first chamber. I clean that out on a daily basis, rinse it out in aquarium water, a bucket of aquarium water, and the water flows into the back. It has two John Guest or bulkhead fittings, two 1-inch bulkhead fittings, and the top of the unit is black to minimize on algae growth. And it has a 90-degree port at the top where I have a Tom's Aqualifter pump to pull out any air that could get trapped in the top, breaking the siphon. It has a built-in silencer. This little lid in the back, that little round part, that's the silencer, which eliminates any of the gurgling sound. Like I said, I really like this overflow box, and you can check out CoralView on their website. I know they just came out with a Diablo protein skimmer, which is just really awesome. Okay, from the overflow box, I have two 1-inch flex hoses flowing down to my sump. So I'm going to go ahead and take you here underneath the stand. I chose the eShops Wet Dry 300. This is a WD 300 CS. I chose the larger sump, which is rated for an aquarium up to 300 gallons, because in African cichlid aquariums, we tend to overstock to curb aggression. So I wanted the extra filtration, the extra media capability, and also in the event of a power failure, and the sump will safely hold all the water from the 150. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I set this up. I didn't set it up in the traditional manner, in the way that it comes from the factory. The water comes in from the 1-inch flex hoses. It goes into the two drip trays, and the water rains down over my media. And the first stage of my biological media is 2 gallons of Marine Pure's 1.5-inch ceramic media. That's rated for aquariums up to 500 gallons. And I put that on the top because when I do a water change and I shut off the sump, the return pump, my water level goes to right here. And the water retention properties of the Marine Pure, it stays wet longer than a traditional bioball. So the beneficial bacteria will stay moist during a water change or a power failure. Alright, and just below the Marine Pure, I have 8 gallons of the bioballs that came with the eShop sump, and the 8 gallons of the bioballs is rated for aquariums up to 300 gallons. So in the wet dry part of this filtration alone, I have the capacity to filter up to an 800-gallon aquarium. And this takes me to my most important aspect of my filtration, my denitrification media. Submerged in my sump, this is where the water level stays at that constant level. And submerged in the sump, I'm using 8 liters of pond matrix by Seachem. The pond matrix is rather large in diameter. It's about the size of my thumb, a lot of the pieces. And I spoke with Seachem, talked with them, before I started using this media. And the pond matrix has more internal pore structures than the regular matrix, which is where the anaerobic bacteria colonize the internal pore structures, and that's where the denitrification occurs. I chose the media, the pond matrix, over a sulfur reactor or a sulfur biodenitrator, or like an Aquarium filtration system where you have to dose with vodka. I mean, you don't have to do anything with this. Just it does it all itself. As long as the water flows through it, it removes the nitrates. The flow rate's not critical through the pond matrix. So I really like it. I've achieved 0 nitrates in this system up until a couple weeks ago when I added 6 large cichlids. My nitrates went back up to 20 parts per million, but in time, when the anaerobic bacteria catch up to the bio load, my nitrates should go back to 0. Alright, from the biological chambers, the water flows over 2 300-watt Via Aqua titanium heaters. I bought those at Marine Depot. I chose these for the size of the heating element. They're 11.5 inches long, which allows me to fit them horizontally in my sump. The water flows over the two heaters. The LCD readout is hanging here on the back of my stand. It shows the temperature, and you can adjust the heating element with the push of a button, so I don't have to get my hands wet. They're very accurate. I'm only using one at the moment because it's rather warm here in Georgia, and you can see my water temperature is 83 degrees. But I've just got one of them plugged in at the moment, and I said they're accurate because this thermometer here, it's right on, and it's at 83 degrees. So okay, from the heaters, the water flows to my bulk reef supplies GFO carbon reactor, but I'm using it with Seachem's matrix carbon on the bottom half. The bottom half is Seachem's matrix carbon, and the top half is Seachem's Phosguard. And contrary to what manufacturers will tell you, all carbon releases some traces of phosphate into the water, and I believe the matrix has the lowest amount of detectable phosphates. But I've got it in the bottom part of the reactor so that any phosphates that do leach from the carbon will run through the Phosguard, and the phosphates and silicates will be removed with the Phosguard. And the return line for the media reactor is on the back side of my return pump, which that's very important to keep all denitrification media upstream from any phosphate removing media or biopellets or anything like that, because the anaerobic bacteria require trace amounts of phosphates and organic compounds to process the nitrogen, or the nitrate, into nitrogen gas. Alright, I've got an auto top-off system here to keep the water at a constant level above the matrix. I don't have to worry about specific gravity in a freshwater aquarium, but it's just a lot easier having an auto top-off so that the water stays over the pond matrix, keeping it submerged. And I used a JVJ auto top-off unit. I bought it at Bulk Reef Supply back during Christmas for $50. I know there's better units out there like the Toonsy, but for $50, I mean, this thing's serving its purpose. I've got a 10-gallon aquarium, which I use to hold my my water to top off the sump, and I'm using deionized water with Aquarium Pharmaceuticals tap water filter. I fill this up with the deionized water once a week, and I have an MJ 400 pump keeping the water circulated in here, keeping it from getting stagnant. Using a Tom's Aqua Lifter plugged into the auto top off, which with this float sensor. When the water drops below this level, it turns on the Tom's Aqua Lifter, water flows, and tops off my sump. Alright, also in the event of a fish, God forbid a fish die and get trapped up there at the overflow, water won't be flowing into the sump as fast as it'll be pumping into the aquarium. So I'm using an ultralight reed float switch back there in the back. If the water goes below the ultralight reed float switch, it turns off this entire bank, this power strip, which is the heaters, the sump, the UV sterilizer, and the auto top off. So everything on the sump will be shut down. But I still have filtration that'll be running, which I'm going to show you here in a minute, in the event that that the sump gets shut down. Alright, my return pump is a Danner Supreme Classic MD18, a mag drive 18, which is capable of flowing 1,800 gallons of water. It has 0 head. I have 5 foot of head and 2 90s. My flow rate is at 1,200 gallons of water per hour. The first 20 inches of my 1-inch return is flexible PVC to absorb any vibration or noise from the pump. I'm using a true union ball valve with it dialed down just a little bit, and 18 more inches of 1-inch flexible PVC, and then that's plumbed into 1-inch rigid PVC and going up the back of the aquarium, coming over the rim, and I have 2 3/4 inch lock line assemblies, return nozzles. I like the lock lines. You can bend them, in any position that you choose to, and I've got tremendous amounts of surface agitation for gas exchange. And then I also have a siphon break back here in the back. I drilled in the bottom of this 3-way 90. I drilled and put in a 5/8 inch hose barb with the water, with a tube in the water, so that whenever the power goes out, there's a siphon break and the tubes won't act as a siphon, filling up the sump. Alright, that about does it for the sump part of my system, but I'm also using the UV sterilizer, and I did not want to use a UV sterilizer plumbed in line with my return pump. I didn't want to decrease the amount of flow in my system, and I didn't want to use a pump to power the UV sterilizer because I really didn't have much room in my sump, and I wanted to filter the water mechanically as best as possible. And let me go ahead and show you my UV sterilizer. I'm using the Coralife Turbo Twist 6X, which is an 18-watt UV sterilizer rated for aquariums up to 250 gallons. And I chose this one for price, and it has increased dwell time with the twisting action of the water flowing around the UV bulb. The parasites and algae have a longer dwell time with the UV bulb. I've got it mounted just over my sump so that when it comes time to clean the UV bulb or the quart sleeve, I can undo the 5/8 inch couplings and drain the water into the sump, clean the quart sleeve, hook it back up, and then get it back in operation. Alright, let me show you what I chose to power my UV, or to pump water into my UV sterilizer. Come over here, and I'm using a Marineland C360 canister filter. I'm partial to Marineland products. I was a sales rep for Marineland back in the mid-90s, and Marineland puts out high quality products. They stand behind their products. If you have any issues with them, just contact them and they'll help you out. But this, the Marineland C360 flows 360 gallons of water per hour. But obviously with the amount of head and flow into my UV sterilizer, I've lost a lot of flow. I'm thinking I'm right around 220 to 240 gallons of water per hour. Maybe less, but that's fine for the UV sterilizer. But let me show you how I've got it set up. I've got a pre-filter sponge on the intake for my canister filter that prolongs the maintenance intervals. I don't have to clean the canister filter as often. The water flows into the canister filter, and on the bottom tray, I'm using 2 of the mechanical filtration sponges that, for this unit, the Marineland mechanical sponges. And in the next 3 trays, I'm using an additional 4 liters of Seachem's Pond Matrix. So I'm using 12 total liters of Seachem's Pond Matrix, 2 gallons of the Marine Pure, 8 gallons of BioBalls, and the amount of media in this aquarium would be capable of sustaining a 2,000 gallon aquarium. Alright, on top of the last basket, I'm using the white polishing pad, and then on top of the white polishing pad, I'm using 700 milliliters of Seachem's Purigen inside of Seachem's the bag, and then water flows out of the canister filter. Go back under the stand. Flows out of the canister filter and then flows into the UV sterilizer, back up over the rim of the aquarium, and the return nozzle is right there beside the 2 3/4 inch lock lines. Alright, I believe that's covered all the filtration. I built my canopy myself. I built it out of birch. It's a flip-up design. The way I built it, I removed my splash guards here in the back because the cichlids, they get kind of rowdy when you're coming to feed them. They'll start splashing around, but that prevents any water from splashing onto my hardwood floors. I remove these. I can flip this up with 2 hands. Flips up over my lighting, and that leads me to my lighting. Like I said, this is a fish-only system, so I didn't see the need in spending a small fortune on a lighting system. But this is a rather good one. I like it. It's manufactured by Hoy Industries. It uses 36 3-watt Bridgelux LEDs, and Bridgelux are manufactured in the USA. It's a 108 watt fixture. I've got it turned down to 60% daylight and 50% actinics. It comes with an SD card and a built-in timer to where you can program the light. I'll step up here and show you that. You can program the time, and I've got a simulated sunrise, sunset, and lunar cycle. Take my SD card, plug it into my computer, program it with the intensities of how I want it to come on and how I want it to dim, the intensity of the lighting, and you just plug the SD card in there, program the fixture. I really like it. I mean, for a fish-only system, it's terrific. Should last me years. The fixture is rated at 50,000 hours. The LEDs are rated for 50,000 hours, and it has a fantastic shimmer effect. So that, with the advances made with LEDs, every time you turn around, I mean, I'm just not going to buy a high dollar unit for a fish-only aquarium. And the last item that I'm going to show you is my wave maker. This is a Hydor Corolla 750. It flows 750 gallons of water per hour, and I'm using it just to keep any particles in suspension so that they'll make it to the overflow box or my canister filter intake. And this aquarium stays clean. I mean, when I do a gravel vac, very minimum debris is in the gravel, in the crushed coral. Stays super clean, super clear. And I'm going to go ahead and show you a shot all the way through, showing you how crystal clear the water is. So that's about it, guys. I appreciate David for sponsoring this contest and for giving everybody the opportunity to enter it. And everybody, thanks for watching. Good luck to all the other contestants. This is Cyber Aquarius saying have a good night.